another thing. So with constitutionalism, basically, it means that institutions follow the regulations provided for under the Constitution. And in this particular case, we have the 1995 Constitution, which, of course, was very categorical in the preamble. It sets down that history that we have. And we also read history. We see that we have gone through bad times. And those are times we, especially we as the youth, we didn't actually want to go back to, because when you look at the issue of national development, there is a way it affects development. So when you come up with that constitution, there were key principles that we came up with, and one of them was the issue of rule of law. And by rule of law, basically, it means that people shall be governed by the law, and the law shall be equal before each and every person. Of course, there is that narrative in society that probably are more superior than the law. And that is a wrong perception, though it is the perception in society. And also there is that perception that a rich person is above the law. Mwavu tasinga musango. So those are all narratives that the Constitution of this republic came to diminish. To say that no, all that should be put under, and we should appreciate the fact that we should have rule of law. Of course, like any other government, we talked about the modes of governance in the country. We have decentralization, of course we have an executive, we have the legislature and the judiciary. There is also that important principle, especially when it comes to constitutionalism, the principle of separation of powers. And that is very, very important, because it guides how the various institutions, especially the ones that run the country, should operate. That each entity should be able to operate without some, we call it an invisible hand. They should be able to operate independently and perform their duties. My senior here is in the legislature. So in the performance of their duties, in the legislation, when they come up with the laws, they should be able to do things independently without any kind of interference. And of course, the same with the judiciary. And that is why of recent, we have seen the Constitutional Court coming up with the judgment recently on computer misuse, where without even any interference, I've said the legislature in coming up with a certain law, they didn't follow the principles or the procedures, and that is all constitutionalism. Yeah, that when you are governed, you're supposed to follow certain principles. So when the Parliament was coming up with the computer misuse, the amended Act of 2022, they didn't follow the procedures. There was an issue of quorum that they didn't actually confirm that at that time there was quorum in reading the regulations and in the passing of the entire act. There was no evidence to that effect, and we see that the judiciary has come up with such a ruling. So we believe that constitutionalism entails such principles: rule of law, separation of powers, and of course protection of human rights. This constitution that we have has an entire chapter 4, we call it chapter 4, which gives the rights, it stipulates the rights of every citizen, the derogable and the non-derogable, the right to life, yeah, the right to engage, association, expression, yeah. So such rights have been protected because of constitutionalism. Of course, there are challenges, as you can see. For example, talk about association, civic engagement. Recently, we had elections. We saw that there was a reduction in the civic engagement of the citizens of the country. If you look at the percentages, almost with the presidential 50